Start fast. Come on, be quick. Hello, friends, and in this series also we are taking up 5 questions in one go. And it is requested that before getting back to any of the series, one must go in a very sequential manner so as to understand the evolution, because there is definitely an evolutionary process behind it, and that is why many hidden elements and nuances will be missed out if you are not trying to understand what is the process going behind it. That is why it is requested to one and all to go through all the previous interactions and previous sessions, and then coming back to this one also. And for any doubts, any feedbacks, or any kind of comments, you can always write back, or you can even call up, or you can get in touch. That's always there. To bring out the evolution of mural traditions of South India. Mural traditions of South India and elaborate on their significant characteristics. So that means question is giving you an element that if you do not know the part one also, then part two of the question is such that you can write whatever you want to write: mythological, social, cultural, tribal. So many factors can be written in part two of the answer. And the first question says the bring out the evolution of mural tradition South India. In fact, it is not even saying that you should write about one particular period or one particular area. So mural tradition reflect the evolution of way of life of people of contemporary times, reflecting very good. You could have written little better also. It is an insight into not just way of life, but also in kingship and also in the socio-cultural milieu of those times. Mural paintings done on the wall of caves, not only just caves, they are all done on the walls of the temples, they are done on the walls of the palaces and so on, using natural colors like green, wonderfully written. Bhimbetka caves in MP is a good example, but it is asking about evolution of mural traditions in South India. So in South India, you have to bring Pallavas, as we have done also Pallava art and architecture, and you have to bring into picture about later on Sitanvasal caves. They are also very important example of murals of South India. You have to bring in the examples of the Chola period and Chola temples also, where there are murals inside the ceilings of the temples and also palaces and so on. So Stone Age, you have to bring in Stone Age rather than stone. You are saying you have to bring the megalithic culture period over here, and then we have found evidences and at the archaeological sites with the beginning of the Iron Age also, where we are finding in South India certain traditional representations, and especially in the Sangam age also, you can link the Sangam literature also indirectly. So you are right, but Bhimbetka is not in South India. That is why answers goes for a toss. So we can move forward. Dancing, recreational, everything is fine, but Bhimbetka should not have been there. Buddhist caves in South India, very good. That is also an example. Buddhist caves in South India, you have to bring in the peninsular region and the deep down south. We have Jaina tradition also of mural painting is very, very, very huge. Those answers, those ideas should have been here. So I think it's fine, but then you took it, another way. That is why it is not on the correct trajectory. Finally, you are writing about temples of Haisuleshwara. Then when everything got finished, then you came back to South India. That's fine. Current times done on saris also agreed. Mural painting. So I think the structure and the understanding is definitely on track, but the examples and the illustrations are not on track. That is why no score will be there. Indian nationalism that confronted British imperialism was a product of colonial modernity. Do you agree? So if it would have been a product of colonial modernity, then our whole freedom struggle becomes subservient, our whole freedom struggle becomes secondary. That is why our our confrontation with Indian with British rule was the result of modernity but not colonial modernity. So Indian nationalism reflected, chaliye, and a product of colonial modernity. No, we are not product of colonial modernity, we are product of modernity. So colonial modernity is monopoly, suppression, hegemony, industrial evolution. I agree with all these ideas, but we fought against it. It's not that we were not aware of this. We are aware of colonial modernity, and we then went on to fight against it. So colonial modernity only favored, I agree with you. Second point is very good. Exploitation, territorial power. This led to simmering of Indian nationalism. No, this didn't lead to simmering of Indian nationalism. What we can say that first of all, British by their deceiving and their disguised nature, they tried to create an impression that we are your well-wisher. Indian nationalism being at the nascent stage at that time, and even the roots of Indian nationalism are linked with the idea that Indian civilization has always treated outsiders as not as aliens. We have always been welcoming. So our belief, our faith, our trust was taken for a ride. And from that perspective, थोड़ा सा आप लिख सकते हैं. I agree, Indian nationalism rise हुआ, but then it was rise against colonialism, colonial mentality के against tribal revolts, peasant revolt. I think everything is perfect. You are bringing wonderful specific examples, but then, as I just said, that answer still required to go pig fat, bone dust. Therefore, colonial modernity was only for the colonists and not Indians, which led to India's freedom struggle. I think analytical element is also coming up, so that's perfect. That's fine. So you have to bring those things which are required. You are working on it, so you continuously work. Then only you can understand it. Is the fastest way to understand. Environmentalism surfaced in the form of many organized movements in post-independence. A wonderful question. It is there. It is Silent Valley. It is in Rajasthan. It is in Narmada, and it is in the parts of Bengal. Not Bengal. Parts of Bengal, as such, I should say. But then certain areas were always there. In because in hills also movement started, and Chipko movement and other movements are also an example of the same. So environmentalism is a sustainable use. I agree. You could have drawn a line diagram, which is missing. Growth versus development. Move forward. Chipko movement. You should bring the name Chandi Prasad Bhatt or even Shri Sundarlal Bahuguna. And I must share with all of you that I had opportunity to meet uh, Sundarlal Bahuguna sir when he was there, and his wife also once. We traveled in the same car, and I was sitting. He one side Sundarlal Bahuguna ji was sitting, and other side his wife was there. So that was one of my first experiences of meeting such a legendary, and not meeting, I should say. He was quite old. He came to Delhi and he was staying at someone's home. But he was an amazing person, having so much radiance on his face. He was quite old, but then he was amazing. So Supreme Court upheld that rivers like Ganges, Narmada Bachao Andolan, ठीक है और चलो current issues चलो और चलो. You should have brought more examples, but then on track, you are not using all the energies and all the ideas which must have been there by now with you because of the newspaper and other kind of acumen. Please bring everything on the spot. This is very important. And your knowledge is up to date, but the kind of more examples, movement should have been there. That must also be there. You are not able to give a complete smart controlled guidance to the movement in post-independent India. You should give it a guidance kind of thing, like why Wildlife Act 1972 came up, Environmental Protection Act 1986, how it is coming into picture, role of Supreme Court and judiciary, and finally the coming up of NGT, as you are saying in the end also. It should have been part of your whole process in bringing how it is part and parcel of the movement. So you are bringing everything, but then still it is not commanding creative presentation. It is coming into that direction, but not completely. Okay, Chalukyan dynasty technique used fresco, that like this I was talking in Karnataka. Yeah, Chalukyans in Badami, Karnataka. I agree with that. Vishnu depiction of human figure. This is very good insight and examples for you, Mansi. You can just pick them up. And see Sitan Vasal cave painting, as I told you, Bradeshwara temple, round and large, elongated depiction. I think, but it is becoming too, I shouldn't say too technical, but the examiner will be able to understand. The student can only think in bits and pieces. Student is lacking the narrative. Student is lacking the understanding of the whole process. Student is only able to recall, for example, reading through Lucent and so on. So it must be finally linked like the way you had done in your answer number one. So you can pick up facts from here, and she can pick up other kind of elements from yours. Indian nationalism was a result of the following reasons: impact of colonial policies, impact of Western education, exploitation and plundering. No, this is not the true picture. You can think on your own that you cannot crack a big exam only because you are reading or you are studying day and day and night. That doesn't make you eligible for examination until unless you have the core motivation. Similarly, is with the national movement. We were ready to fight when we found that our rights are being, taken for ride, and we are being trampled upon by the British because of misuse and because of exploitation and because of drain of wealth and so on. That is why you cannot say that our national movement is result of Western education. It is result of European plundering. It is not the result. It is the fight against that. So we fought against colonialism in spite of colonialism. So Karna, to make sure that such kind of narrative we are going to bring in the talk also. Environmental, so that is why all other points are okay. Environment is one of the important aspect. Can you move forward? Chipko movement again you are bringing, and Silent Valley movement. Then Apico movement is a very important example. I think good, but then it's an average. As I am telling all of you that you have to bring streamlined and structured information, then only score can come up. Mural tradition is about the art of painting in ceiling and surface of walls. South India folk tradition, mythological reflection. Can you move forward? Dynastic milieu, characteristic of these, use of natural colors, realistic expressions because of sources of evidentiary value. So this is a perfect way to write, but then it is lacking examples because it is coming to Sida, Raja Ravi Varma and Rabindranath Tagore. Rabindranath Tagore is not from South. That is why it is not going to score more than average, but the structure was very good. Confrontation against the British imperialism was both culmination of colonial modernity plus revivalism of Indian positive and rich tradition. It is not just revivalism, it is reform also, and then you cannot say that it was the culmination of colonial modernity. Now, this is again a fallacious understanding. Impact was there of colonial modernity. Modernity is there. We are able to segregate between colonial modernity and modernity. Why don't you understand this? So, Western education, focus on scientific application, R.C. Dutt, constitutional rule, proved drain of wealth, industrial industrialization led British monopoly. I think wonderfully written, good track, wonderful. Political association is a wonderful example. Blessing in disguise, colonial exploitation. Banga Bhasha Patrika Sabha. Oh my God, he is able to bring such example. That's really appreciated. I don't know from where he gets such whims and fancies. Sometimes he's writing amazingly well, sometimes he's writing below par. Swami Paramhansa Mandali, integral part of anti-colonial struggle led by Swami Vivekananda. Are you sure? Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Sri Aurobindo Ghosh, Linda Puri. I think otherwise definitely on track. It's a good fight. Environmentalism aims to establish harmony between the development with equity, justice, promoting and environmental preservation. Oh my God, Chipko movement 1973, Terry Garhwal, Uttarakhand, Silent Valley movement 1978, Apico movement, overall impact. Any nobody, it's a pity that you all know the same thing and not knowing little bit more and separately. And this is happening when you are not even studying together. Environmental approach synchronized. Can you be a little slow? Can you move up? Environmental impact assessment, forest rights, CAMPA, CR2, buffer limits, legislative and constitutional safeguards, Forest Dwellers Rights Act. I think wonderfully written, very enriched. Civil society support, awareness generation, environmental NGOs, advocate Mahesh Sharma. I think Nirmal Ganga Yamuna campaign, Nirmal Dhara project, judicial support. I think these answers in GS are competitive in nature. Move forward, Arctic paradox highlights the transformation of Arctic amidst the global warming led climate change and the resultant geopolitical implication, polar vortex impact, receding of Arctic glaciers, surface water, atmospheric circulation, wonderfully written, change, jet stream, movement, more development, atmospheric currents, intrusion of I think GS, this is good representation, on track, satisfying. Spatial distribution of minerals and energy resources, availability of both ferrous and non-ferrous minerals, polymetallic nodules, rare earth metals, especially in the continental shelf, Siberian countries, Russia, oil and gas being global common. I think today's GS answers of this set are really appreciated. Continental blockade strategy of Napoleon was an attempt to establish the French hegemony over the entire Europe, particularly Britain, aimed to defeat the Britain in its using expansionism in Europe as leading power, strategy of economic blockade to prevent impact of it. I think the approach in writing these answers must be appreciated. One must go back to the video and see these again. You will definitely be learning something. Can you be a little slow? Get back, please. Okay, most of the countries couldn't subscribe interdependence. British because of industrial revolution, more appeal in the European market, black marketing of global commerce. Can you move forward, please? One should have brought role of India as a colony also. Why the continental blockade was not successful? Because England was able to get goods from India, and thus France was not able to impose its complete control in spite of all efforts. Many European countries protested against this economic blockade. So I think on track, wonderfully written. Mural tradition in South India is diverse, exotic from cave to temple, wonderfully starting, Dravidian history, cave painting, Sitan Vassal, 2nd century BC. Then some vast. Can you please read what you have written?
सोमवासवर सर समवासरं ऐसे कुछ नाम था सर
Highlight teaching of one thing I can tell you, that whenever you're writing like this, you can just write in capital so that it becomes easier. Tirthankar to worldly beings, it signifies the lives and death and values of penance. So one example, this much of elaboration is more than sufficient. Harmony with nature, very good. Chalo, human desire to be conquered. Some element of megalithic structure, painting, presence of several color tone of human shown indicate north and south trade and commerce. Vijayanagara, Virupaksha temple, murals, 14th to 16th century, royal court themes, naturalistic, some elements of Deccanic and Mughal influence style of figures, and also perspective, use of new technique of
Goiso arts.
Goiso art and brushes makes it so
So,
you are bringing it to the European times, with the Europe coming of the Europeans in India. 17th 18th century Kerala murals and Nayaka well known depicting syncretism in society, presence of Aryan, Dravidian god deities, focus, Carnatic music, its instrument depicted in real form, depiction of Gajendra Moksha, Pongal. So enough. I think this is wonderfully done. Very good piece of writing. It shouldn't become more complex. It is on track. So the third set that we read and the fourth set is definitely more accomplished. It should be remaining with this much of examples, not more than this. The Britishers' utilitarian principle in laws and policies were not for Indian people but for serving the British Empire imperial ambition. So bringing the term utilitarianism in the first light, because it is not part of the question, one should not bring it directly like this. And if you are bringing it also, then you have to believe that examiner is not aware of the term utilitarianism. So you have to link with a bit by saying that, by bringing the essence of the principle at the spot only. So regulation of religious laws, railways, because the question is asking something as colonial mentality or colonial modernity it is asking. So we have to bring that element. So you are keeping at the back of your mind, but you will be bringing lot more examples over here. It is creating a complex situation. But the Indian leaders like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Vidyasagar, Dadabhai Nauroji use that shallow colonial system. So now there's nothing called shallow colonial system, because colonial system was there. We were under it. We got subjugated. That is why it is not shallow at all. We were able to understand and see through it. That is other point. Social discrimination, economic poverty, English and the Western to use Western world, Swami Vivekananda, science and technology, spirituality and become Atma Shakti. So I think the third answer that we read is the finest example of the appropriate mix of both facts and figures, that I would say. This is having lot many more high profile example, and also it is very good. Examiner is aware that the candidate who is writing this answer is much more much more knowledgeable, but the confidence must bring simplicity, and also it must bring out the answer in a very lucid way, because it is general studies answer. So Congress social structure, exchange of Western ideas, liberty, fraternity, equality, Aurobindo Ghosh, railways, revolutionaries, codification. So now this answer is an example of too much. It is too much over here, and a little bit of less must be there. That's all in a sequence. That's everything else is fine. Environmentalism has been a deep Indian psychics in the ancient history. Rig Vedic thought of Buddhism, Madhyam, Mark talk. So the question was talking about environmentalism in post-independence. So in the beginning, in the first paragraph also, we cannot afford to write more than 2 lines about not post-independence. Whole paragraph it is devoted to the beginning of the introduction to only environmentalism, and tracing its roots is taking away. It is actually killing the examiner's time and also the flow. So that is why you have to bring that post-independent environmental movements traces their roots even to the ideas of the ancient India. That is going to fetch more marks rather than talking about what Madhyam Marg or what Buddhism and what ancient India is talking about. So post-independent India, you have to bring in the first paragraph that it is linked with industrialization, rapid urbanization, and that is how there will be environmental movements, because people will be forced to think about their roots and also about sustainability in India having such a fragile economy in terms of forest, in terms of Himalayas, in terms of coastal regions and so on. Then you will be going to score. Otherwise, it becomes it becomes heavy silos. Number of different silos are there, and each silo is not bringing a light, smart, confident picture. So felling of trees, this is very good. This is the way you should write. Reclaiming of ponds, heavy dams. This is wonderfully. This is something very appreciated. Plantation and revolution. Sardar Sarovar, Tehri, and then Bakra Nangal, and then Chipko movement, Apiko movement. So you have also written the same thing, but in a different way. That is why there is a more chance to score marks if you are not making it more complex. So grassroots level, Similarly, some movement had institutional backing. No, it's such a big thing. Institutional backing. Why not in the beginning of the answer only you are bringing that environment movements in India, they are led by people on one hand, they are led by institutions on the other side, and at times they are a collective effort and approach by the villages. So that is going to score get you more marks rather than whenever you are remembering something you are bringing it. And even the international tinge also. What you are writing here, UNFCCC, UNCBD. So this structure should have been from the beginning. That the post-independent environmental movements in India, they had different dimensions and different kind of elements. They were having an element of international institutions and their teachings. For example, this environmental movement also reflected people's grassroots approach and also involvement of both males and females coming up in more numbers. For example, Chipko movement. Environmental movements also inspired later on, and Wildlife Protection Act or EPA and so on. So that's how you have to get that structure from the beginning of the answer itself. You cannot bring lot of elements and then just putting them in the basket and you can believe that fine, answer is ready. No, that is only a process in making. Can you move forward, please? Do you agree with the view that continental blockade was an ill-conceived strategy by Napoleon to conquer British through economic means? French directorate, okay, ideological supremacy, economic revival, securing throne. For that, he used continental blockade. Move forward, crippling British trade, European kingdoms, and preventing Russia. However, it was a very good structure. Now, here you are bringing structure. Here you are writing in like such a flow and simplicity. Why not that thing is visible otherwhere else? So British had Royal Navy, it forced Tsar Russia, economic blockade, move on. Economic crisis, Napoleonic side, therefore blockade. So this is the perfect answer. This impacted the morale of the French armies and so on and so forth. What do you understand by Atlantic paradox? Arctic paradox. Highlight the spatial distribution. So Arctic region is a pristine environment due to both natural and anthropogenic activities. Role of jet stream, role of stratospheric cloud, boundary hazardous elements, global warming. Wonderfully written. I think on track. North Pole, Arctic paradox, North Russia, Siberia. Can you move forward? Greenland, Canada region, meeting of glaciers, and then you are talking about Arctic Council. But like the way one or two more elements, like there was in the third answer, that those one or two elements would make this answer more smarter. Mural tradition in India, South India represent rich cultural multidimensional history. That's fine. Evolution, see Paleolithic phase almost absent from this region. बताया कि वहाँ नहीं है. But animal shows simple stick figures like the way Mansi had drawn. Mesolithic phase, hunting scenes as I told you, megalithic and the Neolithic phase. So it has actually given too much, but it depends on the number of, if it is 250 marks question, then prominent examples. Lipakshi temples are very important from Vijayanagara period. We have not mentioned that. Ajanta caves in Maharashtra are not part of South India. So Pallava king 10th century. Padmanabhapuram Palace, Kerala is a good example, and Worli at Maharashtra is also not an example of here. Use of natural colors like chalcedony and Geru, hematite, these ideas we can take up. Long lasting, very good. All old Bhimbetka, and this is not because it is South India. So what Ashik had written, that was perfect, but it was getting little research level. So it should have been little smarter, but that was amazing. I think the kind of approach we have to take these approach, but we have to bring same kind of high level of information. So Natraj found at Ravan Pahadi caves. This is also not there. This is a good example. UNESCO World Heritage Sites and Archaeological Survey of India's name. We can also bring in our answer. Baki to it is not definitely not everything on track. Emerging nationalism of the 19th century can be regarded as Indian Renaissance movement in our history. It was pioneered by Raja Ram Mohan Roy. Okay, it is held that it was a product of colonial modernity. Western educated elites were leading imported values of Western liberty, equality, learning from colonial masters, no representation without taxation. Indian Council Act was learned from American history. Disconnect with the masses who were considered as subjects, faith in British sense of justice, influence. So see that this interpretation is something different, but then no demand for democracy in India. However, 19th century was more than just that. See, so amending social ills inclusive sati, infanticide, widow remarriage, DK Karve, demand for Indianization of services by Brahmo Samaj, by Raja Ram Mohan Roy, pride in India's spiritual leaders, Swadeshi, demand for constitutional rights, culminating in 1861-1892. However, 19th limitations, that is limited in the base, communal in nature at times, or you can say religiously, it was conservative rather than communal. It was not communal, it was religiously conservative, led by elites. Yet the role was monumental, as held by Gopal Krishna Gokhale. The mistake of the 19th century leaders will pay for the struggle. This was seen in the 20th century movement. So this answer had been now molded by accepting that colonial modernity means what the British were doing. And then when we understood, so this is also appreciated. This is also you could have also done, but none of them you became so innovative. Environmentalism in India, then unique indigenous way of life, oneness with the nature, Chipko Andolan, see, same way, like the way you have written, embrace the trees, environmental impact assessment made compulsory, Narmada Bachao Andolan, Meda Patkar, displacement of inhabitants, then save Nilgiris, Shola Forest in Karnataka, and then Madhav Gadgil, Kasturi Rangan Committee. These names you have also written. You have not written the same. You are losing out on marks. Save Arref in Mumbai because of metro line. Save Aravali Hills. This also we could have done. We have not done that. However, there has also been limited. Can you move forward, please? Lack of sustained and united efforts. They are reactive in nature against Silver Line project in Kerala. Silver Line is a train project. Lack of charter of demand. Emerging threat of environmental extremism with social media. Yet environmentalism. So, couple of points are really appreciated. Glasgow, Panchamrit, 26, sporadic, then industry, academic, government collaboration. So this is how one can score more marks with the same amount of knowledge. Can you move forward, please? Continental blockade, second decade of 19th century strategy, the spirit of laissez-faire of the British, that is our Adam Smith Wealth of Nations. It should end British monopoly, ignite the business in the continent, led to changes in the British policy. So this is she is writing or he is writing in a different way, like the way we had written, but the answer written by Ashik was definitely on track. Beggar thy enemy is a good line we could have taken up. It reaction, British economic strength was underestimated, crown jewel of Britain. So more simple. What we can see here is more simple, more direct, more appealing. We have enough knowledge, but we have to become simple. We have to become small. We have to bring small sentences. We have not to club, and we don't have to bring everything and everywhere. We have to be more structured. Can you move forward, please? It ended up uniting the enemies, concert of Europe, Congress of Vienna, balance of power, shortcoming of Napoleon में उन्होंने देखा limited imaginative capacity, ignored the strength of British, myopic with neighbors, underestimated the economic powers of Britain. Yet Napoleon's continental policy ushered in an era of free trade and put forth a significant challenge to the British economic might. So, not completely putting that way. So that's what we can learn. Arctic is fast emerging the pasture of geopolitical competition. See, the line is that according to IPCC, ice free by 2050. See, understanding is reflected. Common that was written by Pravesh and Ashik also. It is both a ground for cooperation and also competition. Can you move forward? Economic might, connectivity between Europe and Asia, America, distance will be reduced. Competitive rivalry, sea routes, polar versus silk routes, access to various resources, economic gains, but the rise in militarization of the region, that one element we missed out. Russia's nuclear powered icebreakers, and then Arctic Sea, USA, Russia, then you have uh, Beaufort Sea, and also the closeness shows the risk of the World War III as powers confront each other. So a little bit of imagination, little bit of simplicity. Mineral and oil, gas, marine resources. In fact, it is not so much elaborated like the way Pravesh answer was there, but still it is going to score marks. Polymetallic nodules, Russian cyber shelf, and then you Kamakta Peninsula, presence of coal and recent investment by Tata. Far East, Vladivostok, India's 1 billion LOC, partnership of ONGC Videsh Limited, emerging as a new era without any treaty. Nobel Prize winners, Elon Osmer's covering the columns can be referred to. India must secure its rightful place in Arctic diplomacy and research stations, Himadri and Bharati. So, can you stop the screen sharing, please? So what we can learn and understand is that we have to be a little bit smart. We have to pull our socks with the same amount of hard work that we are putting up. That's what we can learn. Achal, what change you're gonna bring, and you have to be very quick, please.
सर जो भी पता है उसको थोड़ा स्मार्टली पुट अप करना है और इनोवेटिव कॉन्फिडेंस सेव करके मतलब बनना पड़ेगा
बन जाइए.
कुछ फैक्ट्स मिल.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Mansi, what one serious and sincere and emergency takeaway you will have?
So in history, I have
हाँ हम्म,
हिस्ट्री में सिर्फ फैक्चुअल चीजों पे थोड़ा फोकस करना, वो पता होगा तो मेरे आंसर्स और सब्सटैंशिएट हो सकते हैं। एंड आई फील कि कनेक्टिविटी पे इम्प्रूवमेंट्स हो रही है, बट वो फैक्चुअल डिटेल्स पे और फोकस करना है मेरे को।
थैंक यू। औशिक।
तो सिंपल लिखना है मुझे।
हम्म, yes, little bit simple and rest everything is on track. Making it simple, putting it in a way you are enjoying it, very fast maneuvering of the information, and that's all. Being in the moment, being focused with high concentration. Thank you very much. Wishing all of you all the best, and we are going to get back soon with the next discussion.